Greetings and welcome to a presentation by the Adrian Dominican Sisters of a Sister Story. I am Sister Peg O'Flynn, and today we're having a conversation with our Sister Mary Ellen Leciejewski. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And Sister Mary Ellen resides and is in ministry in Santa Cruz, California. And you notice she just has one name because she entered at a time that we were given religious names. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about that naming thing. And then we welcome you, Mary Ellen. Thank you ever so much I know you were so excited about being able to tell your story. And now is the time. Here, I got you. Okay, tell us a little bit about your beginning, about your journey up to this point, okay? So
all right,
the floor is yours.
All right. And thank you, Peg. Thank you for the opportunity and the space to tell our stories. In terms of a religious name, when we entered in 1972, we did not get religious names, but Sister Dorothy Folliard, one of our sisters, knew that I loved the French language. And so what she said to me on one of my first days is, I know we don't give religious names anymore, but henceforth you will be called Sister Dinej, because that was the name she always wanted to give a postulant. Oh. And Dinej means of the snows. And so every time we saw one another, she would call me Sister Dinej. And it's February 24th right now, 2023. And outside at the beach, it's snowing, which doesn't happen very often. So I think right after this call, I'm going to just drive down to the beach and build a little snowman or snow woman.
Snow woman. Yes,
right.
Please.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Little point of interest. So
right.
Now tell us, where were you? You began in Ohio.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and lived in a Polish and Bohemian neighborhood. And I was blessed to have wonderful parents, Frank and Jean, and they were both born in Cleveland, and they just lived a few blocks from one another. They met in an ice cream parlor when they were in their early 20s. 3 of my grandparents were born in Poland, Warsaw, Krakow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and my dad's dad, though, was born in Cleveland, and somehow they all met up in Cleveland. So growing up, we heard Polish being spoken in our home, at church, in the neighborhood. And now looking back, I really wished I had learned the language. It was a missed opportunity. Mm-hmm. They spoke Polish when they didn't want us kids to hear something or understand something. But I think that's where I developed an interest in language. And so I had a chance to visit Poland, actually.
Wonderful.
About 10 years ago with some friends, and one of them speaks Polish fluently. So she helped us get around the country because there's only so much you can do with jak się masz and dobrze, 2 words. So it was a really good experience. And my dad had 12 kids in his family.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and
lots of cousins. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, lots of aunts and uncles and cousins. My mom had 4 in her family, but we all lived close, so mm-hmm. we saw them a lot. Had family reunions every August. We still do, and sometimes there were upwards of maybe about 180 or so at the family reunion. So the little kids had to wear name tags, so we knew who they were.
Yeah, that's good. That's cute. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Of course, that party probably gets bigger and bigger. Do you still have it?
You know what? We still have it, but actually it's getting smaller and smaller because people are moving away and just things happening. And my dad's aunt died in childbirth. So my grandmother, or Busha as we called her.
Right.
Yeah, the one with the 12 kids, she said she would take the baby. So she said, now I have a baker's dozen.
Oh my gosh. My gosh.
Yeah.
I think those families a long time ago, we were together a lot because not too many were in college and they just stayed in the area and stuff. Now with the large families and people going to college, the kids are off into other states.
That's
and it's
right.
hard to bring them all back together, but
Yeah.
that family life is important.
And,
all right,
and
so
back in the day also, we had, when people came over, they didn't call or anything. They
no,
just came, knocked on the door, and,
Mhm.
Food appeared miraculously,
I
and they're
know,
off and running.
right. The Irish did the same thing.
Yes. Yeah.
I had two totally sister-in-laws, so they get
Okay.
razzed a lot. Okay, let's go on with your life in
Okay.
Cleveland.
All right.
Okay, grade
So
school, high school.
yeah,
Mhm.
grade school, high school. One of the things, and I'll mention this, is that one of my dad's sister was a nun. And actually, she was a sister of St. Joseph of the Third Order of St. Francis. So their mother house is in Garfield Heights, Ohio.
Okay. Mhm.
And so that kind of was a beginning there. So in terms of grade school, I went to St. John of Pomasine. Our sisters were at that school. And so all 8th grades, and that's where I got my nickname Lech. And my
Right,
friends
right.
call me that even today. It's just a little bit easier.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, yeah. And then I had, some of the teachers: Sister Frances Catherine, Florine Treese, John Vercelli, John Vianney, Sister Incarnata. So they were a strong influence in my
Right.
life. And in those days, the sisters would ask the kids, students, if any of our parents could drive them shopping or
Oh, right.
to take them to different places. And I would always raise my hand and say, my dad will drive you. And I think he really liked it. I did too. We had a chance to see the sisters in a different light than
Mhm.
just in the classroom.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we would help them clean the convent. And of course, that was great fun in those days. And if you could help them check papers,
Yeah.
wow, that was really special.
Mhm.
So be careful what you wish for on that one. And then high school, after I graduated, there were 2 choices.
And where'd you go to high school?
Hoban Dominican.
Mhm.
I had a chance between Holy Name, which was closer to home, or Hoban Dominican, and that was 3 buses away.
Wow.
And so my folks said, choose whichever one you want. We're supportive of that. So I went to Hoban,
So
loved it.
the Adrian Dominicans were taught there as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
right. And we had about 110 girls in the class. Our class was close. And I just thought it was fun, energizing. Our sisters were educators,
You're right.
creative. They
Yeah.
encouraged us to think for ourselves. And some of the teachers that I had, Sister Michael Denise, that's probably
Wow.
where my love for French began. Sister Anne Pauline,
Okay.
Joseph Ellen, Shirley Tilk,
Shirley Tilk. Okay.
Joyce
Yes.
Edward,
Yeah.
Anne Elizabeth, who was Loretta May,
Oh, okay.
Charles Joseph, Joan Zinn, Carlene Marie, who was Judy Gerard. And we just thought they were also approachable and natural
Mhm.
and
Did you ever
human.
have Jean Michael? No, maybe
No.
she was after you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she was a senior homeroom teacher, and I think I might have been just a freshman
Yeah. Okay.
because I remember her name.
Mhm. Okay. So now what about your siblings, brothers and sisters? Did you
I
have brothers?
have 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm the second oldest.
Okay.
My older sister, Kathy, a younger sister, Nancy, and 2 younger brothers, Frank and Dan. And they and their families all live in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we do get together and meet with one another.
And they get to make trips out to California?
My sister did a couple of
Okay.
times with
Yeah.
my niece, and that was
Okay.
fun. Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So and how was that family dynamic? What do you especially remember about your family life?
I think I remember us playing outside a lot.
Yeah.
On the bikes or just playing around the neighborhood. We never had to come in until it was dark outside. So I just remember that dynamic going on. And I remember also, I was always the teacher. So we'd be sitting on our front steps, and I had a little piece of chalk and a little slate board, and I don't have any idea what I was teaching, but I just enjoyed teaching.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you graduated from high school, and you didn't enter for a while, I noticed.
Oh, no,
No.
I mean, I love the relationships with the sisters, but just not enough to make me want to become a nun. That was just a whole different ballgame. And so I went off to Cleveland State University to get a degree in secondary education, to study French. And I think one thing, again, that remained constant, my desire to teach. But during that time when I went to Cleveland State, so much was going on in the world, and on campus. It was 69, 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was lots of turmoil with the draft, with the Vietnam War, a lot of protests going on. I remember a protest breaking out on campus one day, hundreds of students, chairs coming through windows, glass all over the place. And it wasn't Kent State, but there was still a lot of unrest that we were experiencing. And so it wasn't until junior year, I think at Cleveland State, I began thinking about, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I had joined the Newman Center on campus, and I met the Ursuline Sisters. And they invited me to come and see weekend. That was in Pepper Pike, Ohio. And I thought, well, let me check it out. It can't hurt. So after that weekend, I decided to enter. And I remember saying to my mom as we were doing the dishes, Mom, speaking of becoming a nun, and she said, you never talked about becoming a nun. And then she said, besides, they need you like they need a hole in the head. And so I think she thought I was kidding. And I knew I needed to get serious. And when I did, she started crying.
Oh.
And I thought, okay, good. She believes me. And then she said to my dad, Frank, talk to your daughter. And my dad was very supportive and said, looks like she wants to be a nun. So I signed up with the Ursulines.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, signed up. And one day, out of the clear blue sky, Sister John Bernice Knopfs, who was my 5th grade teacher, called me and said, what are you doing with the rest of your life? And I said, well, I'm going to join the Ursulines. And she said, no, you're not. I'm going to pick you up this weekend, drive you to Adrian, and let's just see what happens. So we drove to Adrian. It was probably 72. And she reintroduced me to as many of the sisters as possible that weekend. And then while we were driving back to Cleveland, she said, well, you know what I'm doing to you. I said, yeah, you're brainwashing me. And she said, did it work? And I said, yeah, it did. So
Bernice, that's good for her.
Yeah. So I wrote to Rosemary Ferguson, and she put me in touch with Sister Mary Margaret Heinz. I came in.
Wonderful.
Took the tests, surprisingly passed, and was accepted. So
took the test. I don't remember taking a test.
Oh, there were psychological tests.
Oh, that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just all sorts of tests.
Yeah.
And hopefully, hopefully you pass.
That's right.
I was scheduled to come in then on September 6th in 72. But I called Sarah Sharkey, who would be my future formation director. And I said, Sarah, I can't make it. I have a farewell party to go to. And I said, I'll be out there on the 9th. And she was so gracious. She always was and is. And she said, fine, we'll see you on the 9th. So,
nice. Good.
So I arrived.
Yeah. Better than saying I'm not coming for another year, because you know what that would mean.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We would not be seeing you. So then you entered, and you have a small crowd compared to some of the older people like myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I came into St. Clements in Dearborn. That's where the formation house was. And 2 in our crowd, Peg Albert and me. And so we always say we're still 100%. So our formation directors we had three. So we had three for the two of us. Celine Regan,
Yeah.
Sarah Sharkey,
Okay.
and Katie McGrail.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Melba Biney entered a year ahead of us, but she waited so that we could all do our canonical novitiate together. And we spent that year on the road traveling around the country. And Sarah was giving retreats and presentations, and we had to be together. So we drove out west a couple of times, out to the East Coast and South. And I said, if I never eat in another restaurant, I'd be happy. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then you got missions, you got sent someplace.
Yeah, we did have to look for our ministries.
That's
at that
right.
time,
That's right.
but in concert with Sarah and the team. And so one of my first ministries, I worked with Marge Neighbor, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and she was the director of a home for
yeah,
mentally challenged adults in
right,
Romeo.
right.
Yep. And
Oh, I never realized that. That's great. Okay.
Yeah, I remember meeting her that first day, and just watching how she interacted with the residents and just how compassionate she was. But then I thought, oh, I didn't think that was for me. So I was going to go and talk with Sarah about it. And when I went out to the car to start it to go home, it wouldn't start. So I thought, oh dear, I have to go back in the house, call AAA. No cell phones at that time.
Right.
And just there. But those 15 minutes changed my heart, because I was just sitting alone in this huge living room. And one by one, the residents appeared out of nowhere. They sat next to me. They were showing me their toys, their Christmas gifts. We sat and talked with one another and looked at one another, because some of them couldn't speak. And by the time I left the house, I just couldn't wait to come back. And the interesting thing was, when I went out to the car to start it, the AAA guy said, okay, start it first. Let's see what's going on. And it started up like a dream. And so I just took that as a sign that God had shoved me back.
Exactly. And I was so how long did you work at Marge's, at that residence?
I think it was about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Wonderful people.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So anyway, that you got in.
Yeah. So I got in, and then I started my teaching career then after that, when I left formation. And I started at East Lansing, Lansing Catholic Central High School, a couple years. Bishop Borges,
right, Detroit,
Redford, right, Star of the Sea in Grosse Pointe. I love that age group. Didn't care too much for the checking of papers. You
get a kid to help you.
Yeah. Well, I did. And the person, when I left Borges, the person who took over my job was one of my former students.
Oh, good.
So that was good. So, and the high schools had big convents attached. So I was able to live with our sisters most of the time. Marilee Ewing, Pat Delka, Kathy Erard, Sharon Spambauer, Jean Phillip, Mary Plunkett, and sisters from other congregations. Well, so they were just all inspiring and good friends.
And vice versa. Yeah. You inspired them. You could not go any place without people being inspired. Yeah. All right. And then, well, you've been to Michigan. You've been to someplace in University of Wisconsin, Springfield, Illinois. And then of those places, and Santa Cruz right now.
That's right.
And what type of ministry did you do in those places?
So in Santa Cruz, it's in ecology and sustainability. And it was one weekend in 1982, I attended a workshop at Weber, given by Sister Miriam Therese McGillis, Caldwell Dominican. And the title of the workshop was Fate of the Earth. And that weekend was an eye-opener for me, because we talked about, what does it mean to be human, members of the Earth community, our role in the sacred story. Her words just touched me deeply. I'm not sure I understood them, but they touched me. During the summers, I worked at eco centers around the country. And then finally, I asked our sisters if I could get a master's in ecology. They said yes. And
you are one of the, am I incorrect? You're one of the pioneers, or you did it when it wasn't as it is now?
yeah, I think so,
You were involved
because
in that, yeah.
right, because when I was looking for where I was going to get my master's, I could only find 2 universities that
Okay, yeah.
offered something.
Uh-huh.
And as a matter of fact, our sisters almost said no to me for getting a master's because they thought ecology was a fad.
Hmm.
So I went to University of Illinois in Springfield. Felt so blessed to live with those sisters.
Because they also, is that where Sharon is? Sharon
That's
Zayak?
where Sharon Zayak is.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Very
And they
good.
have Jubilee Farm.
Yes, I've been there a couple times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then to be able to study full time was a real gift. I really
Mhm.
appreciated that.
Yeah.
So when I finished my degree, I planned to go back into the classroom to teach environmental studies because that's what I knew. But then again, out of the clear blue sky, Julie Heyer and Sister Susan Vickers, who was a Mercy sister out west, invited me to serve at Dominican Hospital and Common Spirit. And that time it was Catholic Healthcare West
Yeah.
and Sustainability. They weren't sure where it was going to go, but they just said, "Are you willing to come out, take a risk, and help?" And yes,
Uh-huh.
But I had to think about it a little while because that was healthcare that hadn't even crossed my mind.
Mhm.
And I didn't know anything about that. And so Julie said, "I'm not asking you to do heart surgery. Just come and help us be sustainable." She said,
Wonderful.
"Our
Uh-huh.
doctors and our nurses will be your mentors." And they were. And actually one of the first days I was there, one of the OR nurses invited me to go into watch a surgery. It was a back surgery of this gentleman. And she said to me, "Now, so that you don't faint, I want you to remember, you're not the person on the table. Remember to breathe and just pay attention to what's going on around you so you can figure out how to reduce our medical waste." So that was an experience I'll never forget.
Mhm.
And just watching the surgery too was a miracle, and there were about 20 sisters at the hospital at that time. Rita Eileen,
Right.
Ronnie Kelly, Julie Heyer, Jean Burns, Jean Fitzgerald, Sis Bay was there, Shirley T.
Right. All the wonderful women. Yeah.
So they laid the groundwork.
Mhm.
And I cut my teeth on waste and recycling projects. I always said I talk trash, just helping to raise the
Lovely.
awareness.
Uh-huh.
That hospitals, we all have this environmental footprint, and
Right.
so we're contaminating the same communities that we were committed to serve. So that just made no sense at all. But I think over the years, that focus has been moving upstream.
Right. Right.
And we've been addressing what is it that makes people sick in the first place. So that just means, keeping our planet healthy, reaching out beyond the 4 walls of the hospital,
Mhm.
supporting the growth of our communities. So it's changed, and just making sure the health of our communities and equity and climate are addressed in an integrated way. So.
Mhm. And you have put your whole person into this whole area of expertise. And you always speak of it with such enthusiasm. You almost want to get involved in it yourself. What keeps you going? I mean, anyway, what keeps you going?
I think what keeps me going is that so many others that I work with are involved in this as well, enthusiastic. They keep their kids in mind. They're saying, they bring that up all the time. Their kids, their grandkids,
Wonderful.
we have to do something. And I think because of my background, the values that we bring to it in terms of our mission, what our sisters started, the dignity of every human person, how can we not do this? And I just think it's a calling. It's something I feel comfortable with, and I don't understand it, but because 40 years ago, I wouldn't even think of this. but
Mhm.
it's I felt called to it, and there it is. So
Is a little off to the side. Is there a lesson that you've learned about yourself through your ministries? This one or one of your other ministries?
I think one of the things that I learned, and this is a back from probably the early 90s. I was in a situation where in about a matter of about 3 days, I couldn't walk, and I ended up in a wheelchair.
Mm,
And the whole ordeal lasted maybe about 2 years or so. And so
really?
I think the lessons that I learned, and they didn't come cheap at all, is just how quickly life can change.
Right.
Not take anything for granted: health, family, friends, freedom, the power we have to heal one another, and we all take turns.
Mhm.
And I had to learn how to be patient with myself, because I didn't know how to walk, so I had to learn how to walk again, and then just open to being surprised by the Spirit. So I think that's some lessons
Mhm.
that I learned.
What do you do for fun?
Well, because I couldn't walk, and now I can, I love walking.
Yeah.
And I think also another thing is pre-COVID, love to get together with friends a
Right.
lot.
Yeah. Mhm.
Getting together with friends now still, but more carefully.
Right.
So hiking, biking, I love to swim. I love to read. Uh,
What are you reading right now?
well, it's a book called I think it's by Carolyn Baker, and it's called Undaunted, and it's about climate and
Okay.
our planet and that. And practicing the piano, not playing the piano, but practicing it. and
That's clever. Hmm.
and gardening. I just
Well,
love
good.
to
Yeah.
yeah, watch how things grow or don't grow, and learning why.
Uh-huh. So you know how to be engaged, you know how to have energy, but you also learn that you have to let go and just be at times and
Yes,
be surprised by what happens,
that's right.
because you are gifted with much energy and creativity and joy and all of that, and that just exudes from you.
Mm.
It's amazing to be in your presence and just see the light. And I think God, she's got to have some days that she just shuts the door
Oh yeah,
and
yes. Oh,
leave me alone.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when I practice the piano, just be by myself.
Are you ever going to stop practicing and play?
Uh, yeah, I practice one or two songs, and yeah, I might play that someday, but it's good because I have an electric piano and you can plug it in, so you're the only one that hears it, so you don't have to bother people with,
Oh my
listening to
gosh.
you.
Oh my gosh. Well, is there anything in closing? Is there anything that we would say, oh my, we're just surprised hearing that from you, something about yourself?
I can't think of anything. Maybe the piano was the
Yeah,
most
I suppose.
significant
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think we have perceptions of people from what we know. And then, well, anyway, thank you, Sister Mary Ellen Leciejewski. Did I say it
Good.
right? Leciejewski.
Very good. Very good.
Perfect. I've been
Yeah.
practicing. Wake up every morning. Mary Ellen. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And your story will be on in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
But you have blessed our our environment. You have blessed all the people that you've been in the presence of, and you have given of yourself so graciously. And may you have the energy to continue and know when to just step aside and get re-energized and continue to love the people and love all that you are about, because you are certainly a blessing to be in the presence of.